Okay, good morning. My name is David Hunt, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar on behalf of EssentiaMail, and we're talking about email marketing of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, before we get into the main presentation and I hand over to Nick, I'd just like to conduct two quick polls so we know what the makeup of today's audience happens to be. And the first poll I'm going to launch is, do you make use of email marketing? So just a quick question there. So yes, we do it ourselves. Yes, we use a third-party company to do it. No, or we're not sure. Just give people a few more seconds to answer that. A few people haven't yet voted. Okay, looks like currently 62% do use email marketing and you do it yourselves. 15% use a third party to do it. 8% of you do not do any email marketing, and 15% of you are not sure. So thank you for answering that quick question. I'll close that poll down. And now the other quick question I'm going to launch is to find out what sort of size organization you are. So whether you're a sole trader or self-employed person, 2 to 20 people, 21 to 100 people in your company, 100 to 500, or more than 500 people. Okay, so on that we've got 62% of people are in the 2 to 20 employees size, 38% in the 21 to 100, and nobody larger than that. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. Okay, I would now like to hand over to Nick Sladek from EssentiaMail, and he will be your presenter for the rest of today's session.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks, David, very much for that introduction. I'm Nick Sladek, and I work for EssentiaMail. We're an email marketing business. Before we start, I'd just like to really just go over kind of what the point of this presentation is and what I'd like you to take away from it today. The first thing is really I'd like to give you some tools, if you're doing email marketing yourselves, and a number of you are, that you can use to make your email marketing more effective, and remembering that email marketing is here to drive sales for you, stay in touch with your customers, prospects, and so on. And also, I'd like you maybe to think a little bit about the kind of work that you're doing in your business, not just from an email marketing perspective, but also in a kind of broader context in terms of marketing, and really to challenge you to look differently at some of the things that you might be doing. So really, that's the kind of most important. That's really the most important points that I'd like you to take away from the presentation seminar this morning. But before we start, I'd like to just go back to some marketing basics. And I've lived in this sort of advertising and marketing space for some time, and I'd like to just go back to, and it's an old saying called AIDA, which stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. And it's really at the center, at the hub of anything we do in terms of marketing. And it's the essence, perhaps, of not just this marketing channel, as in email marketing, but also in terms of how we can communicate with the people we'd like to sell to. Because let's be kind of honest here, the marketing is about communicating your sales message, your proposition with regards to your products and services, and communicating that with people that you would like to sell to, you'd like people to buy from you. And perhaps one of the most, the best ways to demonstrate that, and one of the things that I like, posters. If you think about when you drive to work, when you're driving around, the posters that you see around you, they're an excellent example of how marketing needs to work very, very quickly. Because there's no time. You have to communicate a message quickly and effectively. And this is a good example, and many of you will recognize this Specsavers poster. It's been around for a couple of years. And in fact, Specsavers still have similar kinds of posters. And it adheres excuse me, pretty strictly to that acronym AIDA in terms of attracting your attention, nice photograph, pretty woman with some glasses on, creates the interest. Yes, I wear glasses too, wearing glasses now. It creates some desire with a very simple proposition, and it tells you what to do. Now, Specsavers is another one. Specsavers obviously have a fantastic brand, and everybody knows that, and you know what you need to do next, as in go online, go to a Specsavers shop. Exactly the same thing applies to Sky Sports when Formula One went on to Sky again last year. It's a really simple proposition, and I guess my challenge to you is to think about anything that you're doing in a marketing context, and that is any external communications you have with customers, potential customers, and so on. Does it work in a similar kind of way? Does it attract people's attention? Does it give them the information they need to know? And does it give them the tools that they need to then communicate with you? Now, with both Sky and Specsavers, and in fact Omega, you know what you need to do next because they're very well recognized brands. And the reason I kind of mention this, and it is incredibly simple, that there's one really simple saying in marketing, and that is you have to give people what they want. You can't sell things to people that they don't want to buy. If your product is too expensive, or they don't want to buy it, or they don't understand what it's for, they're not going to buy it from you. And I look at websites all the time. We all look at websites all the time because we're all consumers. And if we can't communicate what we're selling and why we should be selling it, and that means not just products, but it also means services as well, whether you're a firm of solicitors, whatever you're selling, whether it's business to consumer or business to business, you have to give people what they want, and you have to make it really, really simple. I'll come back to why this is important in terms of email marketing. Now, in the world of marketing, things have changed, and over the years, when I started in advertising marketing, which is some time ago now, things were, in a sense, were simpler, as in there were far fewer routes to market. There was advertising in newspapers and magazines, advertising on the TV, cinema, public relations, radio, good old direct marketing, and good old yellow pages. In fact, we all used to put our ads in yellow pages in the old days. And now kind of things are very different now with Google advertising, social media, advertising online, genre-specific and specialist interest TV, and loads more. And crucially, and it's interesting from the poll that David conducted at the beginning, that many of you are doing your own marketing. And from some years ago, before online, and really that's really where it's all changed, we didn't have the opportunity to do that. We didn't have the opportunity to do our own marketing because we didn't have the skills and we didn't have the availability in terms of the tools that we have online that make it pretty simple to do a number of these things ourselves. Now, one thing that also hasn't changed and exists now and will always exist is what we call a business landscape. And whenever we talk to a new client, we need to understand who are the kinds of people they're talking to. And almost universally, we all have customers. I'll just show you a little slide here. We've all got people that we haven't dealt with, so I don't know any of you, and out there is a big old wide world of people who have no idea about my business. We've then got groups of people that are warm to us, so people that we've met at trade shows, people that maybe we've written an estimate or a quotation for, but they haven't bought from us. Leads that went cold, you talk to somebody, they seem interested, and then it disappeared. Companies that want to buy from you, but they're just not yet. And that's a really interesting point too, because we all, as consumers, we all make decisions to buy something, whether it's a new computer or a new sofa or a new carpet or to engage a solicitor or whatever it might be. And we kind of think about it and we talk about it, but we don't actually get on and do it. And maybe it takes us 6 months, and I know I'm certainly guilty of that. Now, there's another group, a couple of groups at the bottom of this list, which I refer to as strategic partners and influencers. And in many businesses, especially business to business, there are businesses that talk to your kinds of clients but aren't competitive with you. So, for example, a solicitor and an estate agent, they are sort of similar because they will recommend each other. Certainly the estate agent has the potential to recommend a solicitor. or an IFA. There are lots of people, say, within financial services who will all recommend each other. They all have similar clients, yet they're not actually in competition. So this list here is something that we will always go through with a client at the beginning of a process when we're setting out to understand how we are going to promote their business. And why it's important, and I'll come on to that later, is that the message that you send out to these different people have to be different. It's very easy to have a one-size-fits-all and, hey, let's send a newsletter out to everyone we know. Yet the customer who is engaged with your business, likes you, has bought from you before, you need to stay in touch with them, but you need to do it in a way that reflects the relationship that you have with them. Whereas somebody who is cold, somebody you've never spoken to before, whether online or otherwise, they need a different kind of message too, so that they're not in a place where they don't know who you are, they don't really know what you do. So where does email marketing, or specifically where does EssentiaMail kind of fit into this kind of scenario? Now, the first thing to understand is that email marketing is just a marketing channel. It is just a way of communicating. Right at the beginning, I showed you some posters, some 48-sheet posters, and again, it's another route to market, another way of communicating. So, in my opinion, email marketing doesn't replace other forms of marketing, and crucially, you need to look good online. You need to have a great website. You need to have a lot of these other things in place. And I think what's interesting here is that and again, this is a challenge to anybody doing this themselves, or in fact any form of marketing, that messages need to be appropriate to who you're sending them to. They need to be pertinent, information giving, and humble. I always like humble, and anything we ever do for our clients, and we write all the email content for all of our clients, has to be humble. And I think a classic case of that is if somebody gets through the gatekeeper, gets to speak to me, and wants to tell me that they can save me money on my telephone, it's kind of presumptuous, and they don't really know, they haven't really asked, they're just coming on to me and pissing me off, frankly, and it creates a barrier, immediately creates a barrier. So humble is always great. And going back to giving people what they want, you have to be interesting and you have to be helpful. Now, if you can adhere to those criteria, you're far more likely to elicit a positive response. And there are some good examples of that I'll show you in a minute. Now, where does all this go wrong? And I've got a couple of examples of where I think email marketing goes wrong. And if somebody from Werther's is watching this, then I'm sorry about that, but this is what arrived in my inbox a while ago. This is a classic little email newsletter here, coming from a little video company, Creative Solutions, and they've got this fantastic line right at the top: we're delighted to announce the appointment of John Eyre, our new managing director. Now, I frankly don't give a stuff about that because I don't know who Werther's are anyway. It's arrived in my inbox unsolicited. I don't know who they are, and they're telling me about them and their new MD, and I'm just not interested. And if you think about what arrives in your inbox in the morning, so after this webinar, you're going to have a look at your emails. Anything that has lots of color in it, lots of pictures, has a big logo at the top, whether that loads or not, you know somebody's about to sell something to you. And there's a couple of other little bits on here that I don't like either. It's from a no reply. It's not a real person. It's arrived at the back end of the afternoon, and it's not floating my boat. There's another little example also, which comes from a graphic designer down in the southwest somewhere. And again, it's all about him. Welcome to our latest newsletter. We've had a very busy summer. And the reality is, if you don't know who this person is, even if you do, it's just not very interesting. And it's also interesting to note that at the top of this email, this company have said, I've sent this to you because you're either a client or a friend, or you've been in some BNI or networking organization. And that's what's really important here is that going back to that landscape, this is a one-size-fits-all solution here, and the fact of the matter is it isn't a solution at all. So how can we do things differently where we're going to better engage with people that we're going to be sending emails to? And that applies to you guys, if you're doing this yourselves, and it certainly applies to anybody if you were to use our services, the thought process that we go through. And what I've got next is what I call a little anatomy, and it just shows some of the sort of key points about how an email should look physically. And I'm just going to go through this briefly. For a start, there's no graphics on this email other than a simple footer. So there's nothing at the top. There's nothing that won't load. It's from a real person. It's to a real person. It was delivered on I think on a Tuesday at 10:47 in the morning. So we consider that to be a good time to be delivering. And generally in business to business, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we broadcast. Mondays not so good. And Friday's not so good, certainly at the back end of the afternoon. Now, if you can just read, I'll just read that first line, and this is from a learning development business that we work with. So training, staff engagement, motivation, we've all been there. We've all seen a PowerPoint and we've come out disappointed. There's been something missing. Now, what's crucial here is the opportunity to sell to somebody, to engage with somebody. The only opportunity is a subject line and really the first few lines of the copy, first few lines of the text. And crucially, you'll notice that we're not talking about the company. It doesn't say we are a firm of, we have this many offices. It's not patronizing. It's just a simple statement that we've set out to engage with our audience. We're giving them something then. We're saying, here is a resolution to an issue you may have. And I refer to it as touching on their pain, and I'll come back to that in a sec. Simple call to action. Again, marketing speak, as in what are we asking the recipient to do? So we are saying, give us a call, no obligation. We are providing a phone number. I always say, just email me and I'll call you back. Simple sign-off from a real person, simple footer, and it's really short. Because what we're asking people to do with email marketing, we're asking them to engage. And if you can't see the bottom of an email, you're far less likely to trawl through it. Now, you may be interested and you may think, I'll have a read of that later, and then as the day progresses, it disappears in your inbox. And at the end, you're going to ignore it. Now, I'm just going to come back to that point that I made with regards to pain. What is pain? Now, this morning, there will be some companies who've gone to the office and their computers don't start. Or there's been a flood and the carpets are ruined. Or somebody's chair breaks, or somebody's complaining about backache. Or you need to sack one of your members of staff because they haven't turned up again for the umpteenth time, or they're taking the piss, or whatever it might be. Or you've run out of photocopier paper, or you get where I'm coming from. Point is that in business, we all have some pain somewhere along the journey. Now, if you're providing a service that satisfies the needs of the person that has that bit of pain, and you can articulate that message in such a way as the recipient understands that you understand their needs, and come on to my little pain thing here, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to engage. And I've got a couple of fantastic examples of that I'd like to share with you in a couple of minutes' time. So when you're writing an email, or when you're creating some kind of marketing collateral, think about who it's going to, and think about, does this answer their needs? Does this give them what they want? Because if you think about how good examples like Specsavers, or like any of the kind of national chains, if you think about how a supermarket poster works, it puts a product in front of you, it gives you a price, and it says if you buy this, you get that free, or if you buy 2 of these, you get this free. It's really, really simple, dealing with single issues rather than we do everything, and pictures that are made up of loads of little pictures. If you present too much to somebody, they see nothing. So I've got a couple of examples now that I'd like to share with you, and one of these is for a website company that we'll work for. Now, as you'll all know, there are thousands upon thousands of website companies, from one-man bands to larger organizations. But if you think of the needs of the person who has a website, their needs are fairly universal, and those needs, or some of those needs, are, I don't get enough people coming to my website, and those people that do come to my website don't buy anything from me. So this is an example of touching on somebody's pain. Really, really simple messaging. If you're driving traffic to your site, yet you're not getting the sales you expect, it would be good to know why. So this is, rather than saying we are a website company and we we care for our customers and all the cliches. All we're doing here is we're saying, if you've got a problem, come and talk to us, and we're identifying what that problem is. And if you'll notice, there's a little PS here, because I suspect that everybody who's listening to me today, and generally speaking, every business, have somebody that does their website. Whether it's a big company or a little company or a man and a cellar or however it works, you'll know somebody. So we're understanding that, saying even if you're using a web agency right now, just have a chat with us. I had a fantastic example a couple of days ago where I've gone to see a client and their website's been hijacked by some guy and they can't get hold of him. It's a kind of familiar tale. Now, from this email, what do we get from that? Well, we got a fantastic response from a marketing company in Bristol. I seldom respond to the plethora of emails we get from web agencies offering their services. I commend you on yours. Now, the point is, we've got that email through. We've created an opportunity. Now, another example, again, for this learning and development company we work with, and it's to do with sales, and it's called PowerPoint Kill the Presentation. Now, I am presenting with PowerPoint, and I hope I haven't lost you yet. Now, the key here is that there are a number of people in sales who are frustrated that their salespeople aren't generating enough business, and that's exactly what happened here. It's estimated that worldwide there are over 30 million PowerPoint presentations, enough to cure a lot of insomnia. And again, by touching on somebody's needs, as in, I want more sales, this email elicited a positive response, as in, I would like to see examples of your work. And it is things like that, about understanding people's needs, that you're going to generate a response that's positive and, hey, it's going to get you some business, because that's really what we're all doing here. Something else, and this is a little email that came to me, and again, because I would have to in my business, I do stay in touch with the people that I bump into. And again, this was a thank you for staying in touch. As you can see, I've changed companies. So the people that you engage with, the people that you touch in your business, are so important to stay in touch with them. And while we're all chasing sales and we all want the next big win, if you can remember, it is the people that you touch that like you, that kind of engage, those are the people that are likely to buy from you in the future. Now, here's an example of a business that we work for who sell office furniture. And it's a grubby old place selling office furniture. It's dreadfully price-driven. There's very little loyalty, and it's not an easy sell. It's not an easy sell. And for this particular company, there's an interesting little story here. We go out to big numbers for this company, to nearly 1 million emails, nearly 1 million recipients a month. And we buy data with this company, and we sell this particular proposition here. Now, this particular chair costs 39 quid delivered. Now, I'm not quite sure how it costs £39 delivered, but it does. And a lot of people buy this chair. And it is absolutely crucial. It's a classic case of you need to give people what they want. If this chair costs £200 or £300, people wouldn't buy it. It's too expensive. You'll notice that we are delivering a picture here, but we are adhering to the essential elements that I've spoken to before. What's interesting with this client is that while they go out to big numbers, we also look after the people that have clicked to their website, have ordered from them. And it is that warm list, those people that have engaged, it is those warm people that become the customers of the future. And so anybody that is in touch with you, love them and look after them. And in time, with a bit of luck, they'll buy from you. Now, where there are a number of products and services that are actually quite nice, as in a nice pub or a nice restaurant or a nice health spa, where there isn't any pain. And again, this is another example of delivering a message, short, sweet, and simple, little click through to the menu. And I'll come on to that in a second in terms of why that's important. It's really, in an email, you need to give people a lot of choice. And if you can engage with them and say, here are 10 top tips, and here is something else, and here is something else, but you do it with these short little links, it means that there is more chance that you can give somebody something that they'd like. Now, the next couple of slides relate to these are pretty recent emails, and which I really like. Now, this is for a video production company, and the email is below, as in hello Michael. And what's absolutely lovely with this is that this guy, and it's a really nice proposition here, would you like to be known as the font of all knowledge in your industry, create a great following, attract referrals, and increase business. Now this guy wants to do that, and he's written back, I totally agree, it's something I'd like to do. Is this a coincidence, or did somebody ask you to email me? This is a classic case of a great response where the person that's received the email doesn't think he's being sold to. He thinks he's received a nice little basic email to himself, and it touches on his needs, and that is absolutely the key to any marketing. Touch on the needs of the people you're communicating with, and they're going to buy from you. Now, one of the things we often get asked, and one of the things that people often talk about in terms of buying email data, email marketing data, is I want to talk to the decision maker, and I'm sure you're all familiar with that term, the decision maker. And it's an incredibly meaningless term, because in any business, so for example in my business, there are a number of us here, and we all have different roles. Now, I'm the managing director of this business and I make certain decisions, but there are everybody who works with me, they also make decisions. They make decisions about other things, about payroll, about HR, about heating, about all sorts of different things, about office stationery. So one of the things that's really important is to remember there isn't one person that's sitting there waiting for your piece of marketing communications who has the checkbook and the order pad. It isn't always the managing director. Depending on what you're selling or what you're promoting will determine whether who's going to buy from you. Now, what is interesting is that if somebody puts an email under my nose that has something to do with HR, I will forward that to our financial director who deals with those things in my business. And this is, just want to show you this other example that's arrived. And again, this is a little email trail. Now, it starts off, if you could just look at the bottom, it starts off with "Hello, Carolyn." But you'll notice that it's actually addressed to the email address of somebody called Helen. So what's happened here is that while it's originally gone to Carolyn, it's been forwarded to Helen. Helen's read it and sent it on to a guy called Neil. I'm not sure if this may be of interest for any of your sales and marketing pitches. And then, fantastic, bingo, as I put it here. What's happened is Neil has written below, as in the email has been passed on to me, spooky, as looking to pitch currently in Bristol Thursday. Now that's a meeting that's about to happen. I guess it's going to happen tomorrow, actually, isn't it? Thursday tomorrow. So this is a classic case of landing an email on somebody's desk. They're forwarded it on to who wasn't there because the emails have been forwarded. This lady's forwarded it on to somebody else, and we've got the potential of a sale. We've got a meeting for a video company. And with an average ticket price of $2 or $3 grand for the video that this company will produce, it's a real win. And it's a classic case of when you're looking at email data, a lot of email data might say info at or sales at. And the reality is that in any business, info at, sales at, inquiries at is likely to go onto a more senior person's into their inbox. If you email info at EssentiaMail, it arrives on my desk. So don't shy away from email data that doesn't necessarily have a name, and then it's just a matter of being appropriate in terms of the way you communicate, as in hello, never hi, never be presumptuous. Hi, how are you? It's just way too presumptuous for me. So it's a classic case here, these two fantastic examples where we've generated a genuine inquiry. This is for one particular client who do video. Now with video, it's just an interesting point in case anybody is asking that question. No, we don't ever embed video into emails because it's just not deliverable. However, we will often put a little icon in, as in just a couple of centimeters cubed, which shows that there's a video there, and then that links usually to a hosted on a website or something. So again, adhering to this basic structure of making emails look like they're just text has, as you can see, elicited a couple of really important kind of responses. Now, coming on to some detail now, which might be of interest to you. If we just talk about spam, because spam is clearly in email land a significant issue, and I mean the rules are pretty simple, and to adhere to data protection. And basically there's a dichotomy between individuals, which includes sole traders and partners within a business, because they're actually acting as individuals, and then anybody who works in a limited business, limited company. And so long as you're selling something that's appropriate, so that means to business, as in business to business, and it isn't, so we're not selling little pills and we're not selling camping equipment, but we're selling things that are appropriate to the business community. And so long as we have an unsubscribe and we play by the rules, and if somebody unsubscribes, then we actually do that and don't just ignore it, we're okay with, in terms of data protection, in terms of is it spam or not. And I suppose it's one of those things that the better you can target, the better you understand the people you're communicating with. So if you're talking to a business vertical, as in we're going to communicate with engineers or architects or a particular group, messaging that's appropriate to them, talks their language, is far more likely to be successful, and it's far less likely to kind of piss somebody off. And yes, in this particular marketing channel, just like other marketing channels like direct marketing and so on, you are going to, the odd person is out there and they've got an angry head on this morning and they're going to say, where the hell did you get my details from? But if you're always humble and you always deal with them in an appropriate way, then nobody's going to get upset and you're not actually breaking any rules. You do need to be careful in terms of what is opted-in email data when you're communicating with individuals, as in consumers, as in individual at home, or sole traders. Now, that comes on to another point in terms of email data, and how do I know it's any good? And that is such an important question here. And if you go back to this presentation, which is good, the bad, and the ugly, I just kind of flash on to what is ugly. And the thing about email marketing data is it's just not a regulated business. I can sell you an email database today. I can put a vertical column in it that says managing director. I can make it up. I can send it to you. And I'm not actually going to get into any trouble. Now, there was a little, a number of you may, I'm just going to flash onto this email here. Now, this is an email that we received in our business. And I'm not hiding who it's from. And if you look up that online, marketing.com, you'll probably find that URL doesn't exist anymore. But this is one of the companies that are selling millions of email addresses for almost nothing. So you can buy this this business consumer database, 958,000 UK emails, key decision makers, whatever that means, IT contacts, blah, blah, and so it goes on, insurance brokers database, commercial insurance leads. Buy that for £500. You can also buy for another £250 or £750. I'm just reading it, I haven't read it for a bit. And also, so I can buy myself 10 million UK consumer email databases, and I can buy the whole lot for 750 quid. Now, whatever it says in the email, however good it says that it's quality, opted in, 95%, blah, 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 all these things, it's a lie. It's not true. Now, this company's got taken to court. This lady's got taken to court, and it's caused a number of people, and I'll say this now, it did actually cause us some problems too. So buyer beware. I'm just going to come back to this. Good email data, he pays you money and takes your choice, like so much in life. And we don't sell email data, but we work with a number of providers that we like and who I trust and we trust. And that the point with email marketing data is that, like any database, it's out of date as soon as you use it. There's one company we use in the Southwest called Corp Data. They charge around £275 per 1,000 email records, and their data's very, very good. Great for telemarketing, great for email marketing, great for direct marketing. And crucially, that's because they invest the time every 94 days, every 3 months, in terms of phoning up, because it's the only way that you can genuinely validate if email data is going to work. There are other companies that we use too that are cheaper, where we feel that we need more volume, more reach for a particular budget. Now, data capture. How can you best capture your own data? Now, there's an interesting point here that a number of you may have, and I certainly a number of companies do. They will have a little form on their email, on their website that says, to sign up to our newsletter, please fill in your details. Now, these are spectacularly unsuccessful in generating email contacts because, firstly, nobody really cares about your email newsletter, and secondly, they don't particularly want to give their details. If you give them something that's actually of use to them, as in, if you're a solicitor and it's 10 top tips on conveyancing or house buying, or if you're a carpet cleaning company, here are 10 top tips to clean carpets, then people are far more likely to engage. Now, if you're going to email them, then yes, they will have to put in some details. But what's interesting here is that if you're buying email data and you're sending it, say, carpet cleaning company is a good example, in the email itself, in the body, you can have a line that says, if you're interested in carpet cleaning, then please, or you have an issue, please click here and we will send you the 10 top tips of carpet cleaning. Now, you can then have, if we were doing this for a client, we would then have an autoresponder that goes out maybe half an hour later that says, dear Steve, please find enclosed the 10 top tips about carpet cleaning. And we know that Steve is interested, and our email marketing software will tell us, just like MailChimp or any of the others, that Steve has actually clicked on this link and looked at it. Now, Steve is potentially a customer, so nurture Steve. You could even phone Steve up and ask him, Steve, I just noticed you downloaded this. If the 10 top tips I sent you aren't of any help, let me know. Now, if Steve doesn't buy from you straight away, that's cool, but keep Steve in the warm list, and next month send him another little email, and with a bit of luck, in time, he will buy from you because he thinks you're the experts, because you are the experts. So that whole thing around coming on to analytics and measurement, email marketing as a marketing channel is very measurable, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's not great for us because people keep on asking us, what return on investment am I going to get from this? And it's a fair question. But it is so easy to see. Unlike Google Analytics, which is just dealing with numbers, you can see who is engaging with you as a business. You can see who is clicking on your website. And if those people are clicking on your website, then hey, phone them up and ask them if you can help them. Just like if you go into a shop, after you've been in there 5 minutes, you'd kind of like somebody just to say, excuse me, sir, madam, can I help you? No more than that. Now, one of the other things that we get asked a lot is around frequency and time, and I just touched on that before, that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are better days, business to business. However, there are times when, especially with consumer, that the weekend is fine, and there are other times, and it is certainly worth trying and testing to see what kind of times are working best for your particular product, your particular client base. There was an interesting business that we did actually work for a little while ago, and it was a cosmetic clinic. And it was interesting to note that, so they're doing kind of laser treatments and so on. It was interesting to note that the engagement with their website, 50% of the people that looked at their website were doing it out of office hours. So it's just worth considering about, well, if we were to deliver an email message to our client base or to our cold prospect base at a different time, would we get better engagement? It's a good question to ask. Trigger emails is something that I just mentioned before, and it is about creating other email content that you will send out to somebody that engages with you. It's so much better than in terms of data acquisition, than having something on your website, please send off our email newsletter. And I would suggest to you guys out there this morning that not many of you are looking at websites and filling in that information, because you kind of know what's going to happen next. You're going to get bombarded by somebody's rather kind of dull email newsletter. So just kind of touching then on that point about kind of where does email marketing fit into the marketing mix. Email marketing has to be seen as just a marketing channel, and yes, it does drive a lot of traffic to websites. And that really begs that question, isn't it? How good is your website? Are you proud of your website? Is it as good as it can be in your industry? Because the reality is that if somebody is interested in a service and you send out an email and they want to engage with you, they're going to see how you look online. And if the messaging isn't absolutely spot on and great, and that's not just a home page, that's throughout the site, then they may just jump onto somebody else's site. So how you operate as a business, how things work, whether you're going to, if you're asking people in an email to phone you back and then there's nobody to answer the phone, all of these parts, I know it sounds really simple, but it is simple, as in anybody that's interested in buying from you, you need to treat it like that little tiny flame. Just before it blows out, you've got to grab it, and you've got to grab it as professionally and as effectively as you can. So I've just got that little slide here. I mean, I'll just come back to that. It's a real email. It's really, really be careful when you're buying email data. The rule of thumb here is always to ask for a sample. So anybody you're talking to, if they can't provide you a sample, why can't they provide you a sample? Now, there's a pitfall in samples too, because if they then send you a little CSV file, a little Excel file with 20 or maybe 10 contacts on it, you might then say, well, I'm going to check this out and phone these contacts up. And I bet you nearly everybody answers the phone within those contacts. Ask for another sample and get them to send it to you quickly. And if they can't send it to you quickly, then if they're the list owner, why can't they send it to you quickly? Be suspicious about it. And if you're going to buy some email marketing data, just buy a little bit first and see how you get on with it. So if there's a database or a list of 50,000 people that you could potentially buy 2,000 and see what happens. See what your bounces are like, what your opens are like, and what your engagement is like. And then if it works well for you, then you know you can buy more. So whoever seduces you with something that's cheap, just please be suspicious, because I've been there before and it's not a nice place. So there's lots of detail and there's lots of stuff that I've been through this morning, and it's so important to understand that all clients, all potential clients have different needs. But it's a cliche of mine: if you're not in front of the people you want to do business with, well, it's going to be your competitors that are sending out the invoice. And it really is as simple as that. Think about who could you be in touch with. The more people you're in touch with, the more likely you are to engage and the more likely you are to make a sale. So thank you very much, and thank you for your time this morning. I hope that what I've explained to you and given to you and some of the examples of the experiences we've had will help you personally in terms of doing things yourselves. And if you obviously want to talk to us, we'd love to talk with you. David, over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thanks, Nick, for that very interesting and most enlightening presentation. And I guess from my perspective as the Managing Director of the Web Events Company, I guess two of the key things from our point of view is that access to enough quality contact data is pretty key, and that's something that most small businesses just don't have. And many people actually view their emails in their viewing pane. They don't actually open the email. They just look at the first little bit of it in the viewing pane. So if the first line isn't something that's going to touch on their pane and get their attention, they won't bother to open the email. So for those reasons, I think the EssentiaMail advice is very good. Their approach is very refreshing, and it's why that we've been using them recently for the Web Events Company to try and promote our services. We're very pleased with the way that they go about doing that for us. Now, there are a couple of questions coming through. I'm conscious of the time, but I'll just pick up on a couple of these very quickly. But before I do, whilst people are still typing in their questions, I'll just make the point that the proof of how the EssentiaMail approach works is actually everyone that's attending today's event. You all read the email invitation from EssentiaMail, you opened it, you registered for the event, and you've turned up. So you are your own proof that their approach works. Okay, we're just going to pick on two questions in the essence of time. The first one is something that you touched on, Nick, but didn't expand on, and that is, what kind of return on investment can I get from email marketing?
Okay, it's a very valid question, and it's true of any marketing channel. And it's a very difficult question to answer. There isn't a simple question here, and a simple answer here. To a great extent, it depends on the quality of the email data. It depends on the quality of the offering of the service or product that somebody is offering, but I think there is a rule of thumb here that email marketing works well for higher value products, and where there's a product which has a unit price of only commodity products, for example, say toner cartridges or inkjet cartridges, or a client that we started working for, but it just wasn't going to work, where they were, it was a company where you typed in your registration number, and for £4 it gave you the value of your car via a text message. And it just doesn't work for products of that ilk. So for higher value products that aren't strict commodities where somebody can price check you very, very easily, email marketing is a truly effective tool. So there isn't a rule of thumb. There are so many variables. It really has to do with the value of your product. And if you have a higher value product, I mean probably anything over £100, email marketing is an effective route to market for you.
Okay, thanks for that. We've got quite a few questions coming through, but we are just running over time slightly, so I'll just pick on one more question. And anybody else that's raised a question that we don't have time to answer, we'll get back to you individually later. The final question I'm going to pick on is, can I rely on email marketing alone to drive my sales pipeline?
Well, I have touched on this briefly, and I think the simple answer is no, because how you work how your company works in terms of the sales process. And we have been in a situation where we end up as a byproduct of what we're doing, we're sending quite a lot of traffic to websites. And I think the peak that we ever sent was about 1,400 companies we sent to a particular website. And if the website isn't doing the job and converting the traffic, then hey, don't shoot the messenger. So it really is absolutely crucial that every other part of your operation is up to scratch. If you're offering a phone number or you're going to get back to people, you need to do it quickly and promptly. And if you're not on the phone, then you lose that opportunity. So give me a call, give for no obligation chat and an email, and there's nobody answering the phone. It's really, it's effectively a death knell. So it is so important. And all the other marketing channels that build your reputation are truly important. And for us as a business, just very briefly, so for example, we do a number of trade shows, and it's so reassuring. Then somebody will walk past my stand and they will go, get your emails. Now, whether they buy from me or not, it's not that important. The point is I'm out there, I'm being seen to be out there. So other marketing channels are really important so that you build your visibility. I hope that answers that, David.
Okay, well, I thank you for that, Nick. We've got lots of questions coming through, but I think because we have overrun a few minutes, I'm going to have to close the event down. But for those of you who have asked questions, Nick will get back to you with answers individually after this webinar has closed down. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. I'd like to thank Nick for a really excellent presentation there. And you've got Nick's contact details on the screen, so do make contact with him if you found today's session of interest. When you leave today's session, you will be directed to a short feedback questionnaire, and I do ask everybody to complete that because it helps us to improve the quality of any future events that we're running. It will only take you less than 1 minute, so please do take the time to complete that questionnaire for us. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.